Crimson Desert is one of those games where the easiest, most honest description is open world. Not just because it's big, but because it feels like somebody stuffed a full RPG, a survival game, a sandbox, and an action brawler into the same box, then shook it until mechanics fell out of the cracks. And the wild part is, I've played for over 50 hours, and I have only just left the starting town. So if you've been hearing people talk about Crimson Desert like it's some kind of anything can happen fantasy playground, I get it now. Let's talk about how it actually feels to play the game. The world, the combat, the movement, and all the stuff that you can do that makes it so damn hard to stay on the main quest for more than 5 minutes. I haven't used the fast travel much. Not because I'm trying to be a purist, but because riding across this world is kind of the point. You're on horseback, the landscape opens up, and the game does that open world trick where you say, alright, I'm going to go to the main quest marker, and then your brain immediately goes, what's that tower on that hill? Why is there smoke coming from that valley? Is that a ruin? That looks like a cave, and caves mean loot. And suddenly, you're in a dungeon. Not just a copy-paste corridor either. You'll find an entrance, solve a little puzzle, get deeper, fight something, maybe find another puzzle, grab the treasure, and then the exit pops you out on the other side of the mountain like a magic trick. And then you walk out, the camera shows you some ridiculous view, and your eye catches something in the distance, and you do it all over again. That's what I mean when I say it doesn't feel empty. The space between objectives isn't just travel time. It's where the game keeps offering little stories. The other loop that keeps grabbing me is the base camp and town. You go in for the supplies, you pick up a couple little jobs, the jobs lead to expanding the camp expansion introduces a new NPC, that NPC introduces a new system, that system gives you a reason to gather materials, gathering materials leads you into the wilderness leads you to a dungeon, the dungeon gives you loot, the loot gives you upgrades, the upgrades make you confident enough to take a harder contract, and you realize you've been preparing for the main quest for 2 hours without moving it forward even slightly. Crimson Desert is constantly handing you that one more thing feeling, and it works because the systems are layered in a way that kind of makes sense. It's not just busy work, it's momentum. Now, gameplay wise, the first big pillar is the fighting. On paper, it's the standard RPG list. Combat, looting, upgrading gear, unlocking skills. In practice, it's a scrappy physical kind of combat where the game really wants you to throw hands. Sometimes literally. You can absolutely play it like a normal action RPG. Dodge, hit, parry, combo, manage stamina, use skills. But then you realize the game is also perfectly happy if you handle the situation by grabbing someone, slamming them into something, throwing them off a ledge, or turning a brawl into pure wrestling nonsense. At points, it feels like this game wants you to fight like you're in a tavern argument, not a heroic duel. If you really want to take on an entire enemy fort with nothing but your fists, performing RKOs that destroy towers, and tossing bosses around like sacks of grain, Crimson Desert takes itself seriously, but lets the player be ridiculous. For me, the story isn't the focal point. I'll be completely honest, I only have a very vague idea of what is going on. You play as Cliff, with a K, and he has about as much personality as one. He takes all information with the same level of gruff acknowledgement. Deliver a letter. Alright. Save the realm from a cosmic threat. Alright. It's the same manner of reaction pretty much every time. Like both quests are equally annoying chores he just needs to tick off before dinner. At the beginning of the game, he dies. He comes back to life and is in this realm above the clouds called the Abyss, which is apparently a place that almost no one can reach, reserved for only really powerful people. And he's basically told, you have to save the world. And he just replies with,
I don't know what you mean.
Which for a game that plays everything very straight, lands like comedy. The tone is sincere, but Cliff is so dry that it becomes funny. One thing I didn't expect when I started playing this game is how much traversal matters here. The world is built in a way that makes moving through it interesting, and that's before you even get to the more gamey tools, because yes, there's a magical grappling hook. There's also a general sense that the world is built vertically, cliffs, ruins, towers, and weird little pockets of terrains that feel designed for you to jump, climb, and scramble through rather than just hold forwards. And the fact that the game includes things like the grappling hook means that designers are basically daring to break your own pathing. Sure, you could just go around, or you could yank yourself up there and see what's on top. Crimson Desert isn't just combat and quest, it's also farming, fishing, building up your base, decorating, adopting a pet, crafting and upgrading, and then it throws out, there's a dragon and a mech suit. I don't yet have footage of that because, again, over 50 hours, still in the starting town. But even without seeing those absurd late game toys, you can feel that the game is packed with systems that exist purely to give you options. If you want to roleplay as a wandering mercenary who only cares about contracts and loots, you can. If you want to be a camp building, supply running, town helping, I know every NPC by name kind of player, you can. If you want to spend an evening fishing because that sunset looks so nice and you're avoiding all responsibilities, you can. That variety is the selling point for me. It's a world that supports multiple ways to play without making any of them feel wrong. By now you have probably heard about the control scheme. It feels almost infamous at this point, and yes, it takes a lot of getting used to. Even now I will sometimes jump when I'm meaning to get on a horse, or do something completely unrelated when I just want to pick something up. It feels like every button press has multiple actions depending on context, on top of simultaneous button presses that do even more things. But, and this is important, you do get used to it. At a certain point, the chaos becomes muscle memory, and the game does start to feel smoother, because you're no longer fighting the inputs, you're using them. This is not a game you can pick up and instantly master. You have to learn to walk before you can run. You do need to learn the basics, then you can learn the more advanced stuff, and it takes a couple of hours before it clicks. And once it clicks, you realize why the controls are like this. The game is trying to give you a ridiculous amount of interaction without turning the controller into a piano. Writing this has been quite difficult because Crimson Desert has so much going on, and it barely tutorials you. I'm still discovering things while I'm trying to explain the things that I've already discovered. That's usually a pretty big red flag. No tutorial can sometimes mean poorly designed. But it feels more like the game is trusting you to experiment, to mess up, to stumble into mechanics naturally, because the world keeps presenting situations where you want to try something new. And that's the feeling that keeps me playing. Crimson Desert is huge, it's beautiful, and it's the kind of game where your plan is never the thing you end up doing. You start the session thinking, main quest, and you finish the session thinking, how did I end up completely redecorating my house, adopting a pet, getting lost in a ruin, and fist fighting a man so hard the environment took emotional damage? That's Crimson Desert so far. A game I understand maybe 30% of, and I'm having a brilliant time with the other 70.